Which nutritional supplements do you recommend that everyone take?
Great question. Supplements are a little bit controversial. There's a lot of people that think, oh, I want a plant-based diet, it should be natural. And I'm really opposed to that. And I worry about that because for sure, there is no debate about vitamin B12. We all need to supplement B12. Anyone over the age of 50, no matter what they're eating, no matter animal products or not, need to supplement B12. Anyone on a vegan diet needs to supplement B12. There is deficiency that happens. I've seen it, and it's really dangerous. You can get to the point. The thing about it, I always say it's the most finicky vitamin with an attitude problem because it has this, it's like a difficult way of absorbing. It has this like very interesting absorption curve. We need just the right amount of intrinsic factor at just the right amount, right timing, and it doesn't always work out that way. So we have to be a little precarious about B12. The problem is it won't show up in your lab work necessarily because most people aren't testing MMA, methylmalonic acid. Most people test B12 itself, and it could stay in your system for a long time, but you could be running out and not know it. So it's very deceptive too. It's finicky and deceptive. So the problem is you'll see people long-term chronically not taking it in, and you could end up with irreversible neurological damage. That's terrifying. I've actually seen this before. So it's not worth it. The safest, most effective, cheapest, most accessible way to avoid these problems is just to pop a supplement. Now, I recommend 3 different dosing possibilities. You can see all this on my website at plantbaseddietitian.com. I've written about this extensively on all my books and my papers, but the 3 doses are, if you like to take more pills, you could do 50 micrograms twice a day, 150 micrograms one time a day, or 2,500 micrograms once a week. And again, it's all on my website. But that's just the most effective way to deal with your intrinsic factor and to deal with all those kind of weird issues. Very important to take B12. The other notable nutrients, I call them notable nutrients because on a plant-based diet, there are certain nutrients that need to be noted. On any diet, there are certain nutrients that need to be noted. On a keto diet, you're going to be fiber and vitamin C deficient. There's no perfect diet. So that's why these are things we need to note. The second one is vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is fat soluble. It's not like B12, which is water soluble. You can't basically overdose on B12. That'd be very challenging. Not that I recommend you try this at home, but D you can, because it is fat soluble. So I don't have my clients blindly supplement their D. I have them get their blood tested. Like, again, wanting to know the information. So I have them test their vitamin D. And if they're at a healthy, optimal number, you could go about 2,000 IU a day. You can go upwards of 5,000 if you're a little low. Some doctors, you get so low. It's become this very prevalent deficiency around the world, which is interesting. There's a lot of reasons for that. Most of us stay indoors. Most of us are scared of skin cancer, so we slather on the sunscreen. Obesity is prevalent, and the fat itself gets in the way of the penetration of the UVB rays from the sun. A lot of different interesting reasons. Again, a very multifactorial issue. So I suggest getting tested and then supplementing accordingly. The third nutrient that I recommend considering supplementing is vitamin K2. This is also kind of controversial, but it looks like we may need not just K1 from our leafy greens, we may need some of that K2 as well. Again, this is not 100% certain yet. Well, nothing about nutrition or science is 100% certain by definition. That is what's so interesting about science. It evolves. We gather, we aggregate data from all sorts of different data sets, and we put it all together and we go with the preponderance of evidence and make recommendations based on what we know at the time. We can only do that. That's all we can do. And I think nutrition is one of the most complicated sciences out there. So, and it's the most important because it's the #1 cause of early death and disability. So we need to pay attention. The 2 minerals that I recommend supplementing for most people, or that are just at least notable, are iodine and zinc. Iodine is found in the soil, but again, things have changed. It depends on where you live. If you live near the ocean, you're more likely to get the iodine in your produce. However, it's been a problem for quite a while, which is why you've heard about salt being iodized, because they wanted to get it to the masses. And what's happened lately, we're seeing more goiters and we're seeing more problems with thyroid and stuff, because I think one of the reasons people are avoiding salt in general, like they're just avoiding salt for blood pressure or for whatever reasons. And the salts that you get from processed foods, or those fancy salts that people gravitate towards, the Himalayan pink salt or the black lava salt, all those different really fancy salts, those aren't iodized. So we're not getting iodine in the way we need to. So that's something to be notable. You can't, if you don't have a blood pressure problem, you can get it from a pinch of iodized salt. You can get it from sea vegetables, or you can take a supplement, which is what I do, just to make sure you're getting, for adults, you need 150 micrograms a day. Zinc, we can get from plant foods. We can get it from leafy greens and legumes and stuff like that, nuts and seeds. However, we do tend to fall short on a plant-based diet. It is a little tricky to get enough because there's those phytates that are found in certain plant foods, and that can inhibit the absorption of zinc. So plant-based eaters need to take in extra zinc to compensate for that. And, or we can consider supplementing instead. Other than that, it goes back to the other nutrient is not a micronutrient, but it's the omega-3 fatty acids and the long chain ones, the EP and the DHA, which are the other ones that I recommend supplementing as well. So that is the repertoire of notable nutrients that I like to consider.
There's a lot of press about choline and the importance of consuming eggs to get enough of this nutrient. Can vegans get sufficient choline?
Yes. This is one of those cases where just because something is good doesn't mean more is better. So we can get it. We can get it from potatoes and beans. Again, back to that 6 daily 3. We can get it in our diet just enough, but the problem is eggs and all that, it can be harmful because you get so much of the choline that your body, we just learned recently about this. Gosh, it's so magnificent what happens with the microbiome. The microbiome, we're just tapping into we're just at the tip of the iceberg of all this data on how powerful the microbiome is for our health in so many ways, including with what we're learning about COVID now. So it's fascinating. One of the things we learned recently is that when you take in choline from eggs or chicken, or you're taking carnitine from meat, and the microbiome produces this compound called TMAO, and this compound is inflammatory and can promote a disease chain process as well. So just because something is good doesn't mean more is better. We don't need to worry about choline.
What's wrong with eating fish? A lot of people say it's healthy.
Well, there is some data to show that eating fish is healthy. Interestingly, we don't know how much animal product we can get away with. And I could argue that would be the least bad animal product that we know. I hate doing that. And people always ask me, what's the worst, what's the least? I don't even like to prioritize it, but hierarchically speaking, there is some evidence to suggest a pesco vegetarian diet is healthy for certain reasons. However, what we're not considering is, again, you're getting this onslaught of excessive amino acids. You're getting the saturated fat, especially because we eat the larger prey fish, which are, they accumulate toxins up the food chain. So that means you're not only getting more amino acids, more saturated fat, our oceans are our dumping grounds. They are so polluted like never before. And we're getting things like, dioxin and DDT. We test for mercury. I found that my clients that come to me, like, I just eat fish once a week or twice a week. I'm like, okay, go get your mercury tested and see how it's going for you. Pretty much all of them see mercury in their blood. We don't need mercury in our blood. So it's a way to get concentrated pollutants that are toxic to the system. But, can we have it once a month? Maybe, probably. If you look at the blue zones and you look at all of the healthiest populations around the world, they did consume, most of them except for one, consumed a little bit of animal product. But animal product, and that's what the premise of my book, The Vegiterranean Diet, was. Why was the Mediterranean diet so healthy? It's because it was mostly plant-based diet, but they used animal product as condiment, or they used it as, flavoring for foods, or just to celebrate. So, I won't tell someone you will die if you have one serving of fish, once in a while, because that's just not, again, in alignment with the evidence. But do you need it? I don't think you need any animal product in your diet.